Alastor is a character I loved in the pilot, and he had the potential to be Hazbin Hotel's Hisoka, and by that I mean that he was a wild card, an unpredictable element in the plot. This season showed Alastor's backstory and revealed to us to whom his soul belongs. I'll start by saying that we needed way more of Alastor's backstory. We just saw his deal, but not his motivation or how his killing spree started. It's insane that Black Griffin's songs gave more justice to the character. Not every villain needs a tragic origin story, and some people are just evil for the sake of it. But I still feel disappointed by it. His backstory was supposed to make you feel intimidated by him, but it makes him look like a crybaby who would kill people just because they accidentally poured a drink on him. He sold his soul to Rosie because he knew he would have ended up in hell. At first I thought that was smart, but then he made a deal without bothering to ask what he would have to do for her. I don't understand how Rosie can bestow all this power on a sinner if she's also mortal. This situation would make sense if it were revealed in the future that Rosie isn't just a sinner. So at least for now, I don't want to dismiss it as a complete mistake. What exactly does she gain from this deal? I understand that there are more seasons to come, and there's probably something involving Lilith that we don't know yet. So although I find this lack of clarity annoying, I won't focus too much on it. I don't understand why Rosie refused to repair the staff if she wants Alastor to achieve the goal she desires. Without it, he is weak and would have difficulty achieving this phantom goal. I personally don't like that Rosie is the one who owns Alastor's soul. One of my favorite things from Season 1 was the dynamic between these two characters. If they once represented a complicit alliance between two overlords who respected each other but were ready to betray one another if necessary, now they're just a slave and his master. Why wasn't Alastor irritated by her? Look at the way he looks at her here. This isn't the face you'd look at your jailer with. This is a man looking affectionately at a friend. Then we get the song Don't You Forget. Okay, remember when in part 1 I said the lyrics improved in season 2? I still believe that, but this song's lyrics are awful. This is probably just a me problem, but I can't take these lyrics seriously, even if the melody itself is catchy and the singers are talented. These lyrics reek of Reader x Alastor roleplay fanfiction on AO3. I prefer the reprise of this song, mostly thanks to Christian Borle's performance, but I wouldn't say that I love it. I know this is Hazbin Hotel, but as soon as the villain I'm supposed to fear says "You're my bottomest bitch," I'm reminded I'm actually watching a children's cartoon masquerading as an adult show. After the song, Alastor fights with Vox and agrees to be his prisoner. People complain that this fight makes Alastor look weak, and we will talk about Alastor's strength later, but in this specific case, I admit I find this critique gratuitous. Alastor is still wounded from the fight with Adam, and it's also clear he surrendered voluntarily. It was part of his plan, so I don't mind it. The big problems arrive when Alastor breaks both deals. Alastor forces Charlie to say that Vox is the most powerful sinner, and that breaks the pact with Rosie. Except Charlie is just a princess. It would have made more sense if Lucifer, who is the king, had said it. But if the king is nothing, by what logic should his daughter have authority over hell? And above all, why didn't Alastor force her to say it right away, since that was enough? I've read comments saying that Vox's power is tied to his popularity, but in Hazbin Hotel, that's not what determines how powerful an overlord is. It's the number of souls they possess, so I don't consider this defense valid. But let's say it's valid, just to play along. Not a single sinner in hell respects Charlie. They all consider her a moron. So why should they care about what she says? Why does the show pretend that her words will suddenly matter? And how does this even break the contract to begin with? The deal between Alastor and Rosie was for him to be the strongest sinner in hell, and he still is, even after Charlie said Vox is the strongest. This is because during their fight, Alastor was dominating Vox, and this is supposed to be Vox at his strongest, while Alastor is still wounded and still with his staff broken. So how does Charlie saying that Vox is the strongest break the deal? And if Alastor had planned to make Vox the strongest sinner in hell to break the deal with Rosie, why did he try to put Velvet and Val against Vox during his captivity? Without them, it would be harder for Vox to achieve his goal and become the strongest.
Just one more thing.
Vox becoming the strongest sinner breaks the deal, so Alastor is no longer bound to Rosie. But doesn't ending this deal also take away the power granted to him by Rosie? She gives him his powers, but only if he does something for her, and until then, his soul belongs to her. Translation: mission completed equals freedom plus power to keep. But if Alastor directly breaks the pact with Rosie, nullifying it because he's no longer the most powerful, then he gets his soul back but not his powers. If the deal is cancelled, he should lose his powers. The deal stipulated that they were a reward he could use once freed. So are we supposed to believe that Alastor, without the power Rosie gave him and still wounded, is so strong that he can beat Vox, who is now the strongest sinner? I also don't understand why Rosie doesn't face any repercussions for her deal being broken. Her eyes glow, and that's it. And speaking of Rosie, where was she in the song Good to be Bad? We see Vox talking to all the overlords except her. When all hell was breaking loose, she was happily drinking her tea. Or maybe the writers couldn't write a scene with her, Vox and Alastor? This isn't the first time something similar has happened. In episode 6 of season 1, for some reason, Alastor was absent. This season, in episode 3, Vox and Velvet went to the hotel, but without Valentino. Are they trying to make me believe he was too busy to visit the place where his favorite victim is staying? But enough about Valentino. Let's get back to Alastor, Vox and Rosie. The pact Alastor made with Vox was pointless because he had already proven he wasn't the strongest in hell. Even though Alastor wanted to lose and get captured, the fight between Alastor and the V's makes it clear that he's weaker than them. He says the fight is unequal because it's 1 against 3, but they never fight in sync. The fight scenes are always one-on-one between Alastor and each of the 3 V's in rotation. Even after Husk and Nifty intervene, Alastor still loses, and this proves that Vox is stronger than him. The deal should have been broken right there. There was no need for the idiot to say it on worldwide television. Why does the deal stand in practice but break in words? All this would have made sense if Rosie had said, "You were the most powerful demon, but Vox, who arrived later, stole the title from you, and that's your problem." But obviously, the show isn't that well written. And believe it or not, there's more stuff that doesn't make sense. On my second rewatch, I realized Alastor could have broken his deal with Rosie in a much less convoluted way. He could have let Vox defeat him and then offered to do a televised tour, declaring Vox the strongest. Vox would have gladly agreed, unaware of the scam. Alastor would have broken the pact earlier and would have had an extra favor to ask of Charlie. So this mastermind wannabe let himself be imprisoned for nothing, and thanks to a fortuitous alignment of the planets, Vox placed his hands on Charlie's shoulders at just the right moment. It wasn't a given that this would happen. She had argued with Vox and could have moved away without being physically touched. Alastor couldn't even ask her to stay still because he'd already burned the favor, and he'd remain Vox's prisoner forever. I would have preferred Alastor to use Charlie's favor for something more sinister, like killing Vox or hurting Lucifer. This whole thing doesn't make sense, and it gave me a headache. Going back to Alastor's strength, I think the main issue is that the show keeps trying to reinforce how strong he is without actually showing it. We need a reason to fear him. It makes sense that he loses here, but fans would like to see him be scary and intimidating for once, just like the pilot had teased. Now that I'm done with discussing his deals, I'd like to talk about this character in general. All the charm Alastor had in the pilot is gone. The reason why many others and I fell in love with him is that he felt so above everyone else, never getting pissed at others people's remarks, always presenting himself as a stereotypical radio host and not seeming to care about his reputation. Pilot Alastor could also manipulate the audience much more. He was so charismatic and friendly. It felt like he was genuinely putting his all into an active performance all the time.
Alastor?
Yes, I know. I've been absent some time. I'm sure you've all been wondering.
Not really, but welcome back in any case.
And don't get me started on the swearing. Hearing Alastor say this,
Oh, fuck you. Ornery old bitch. That. I'm about to end your fucking life.
feels very out of character. The only moment I excuse is this.
Fuck.
Because he was clearly shocked. The rest doesn't work. Show Alastor feels like somebody Pilot Alastor would have preyed upon. He feels more like a bratty teenager rather than a monster wearing a polite suit. Pilot Alastor came across goofier with a lot more energy, not just in personality, but also in the way he was animated. He felt more touchy and playful, invading people's personal space, while in the show he's more distant and stiff. And most importantly, this guy is a lively radio host first, sinister overlord second. This guy is a not-so-sinister overlord first, a lively radio host second. The more I see Alastor in the show, the more I think Pilot Alastor has been killed and replaced by a skinwalker. I want to end on a positive note. So although I don't like how Alastor got out of his deals, this also means he's not forced to stay at the hotel anymore, so at least I'm curious to see what he will do next season. Alastor and Lute, I'm rooting for you.